What does it mean to be a stateless person? And a whole lot more from Nigeria, because I got a lot of content for you. That's coming up on today's Hot Zone.
This is the Hot Zone. Engaging with the news in a whole new way, international war correspondent Chuck Holton brings insight into areas of crisis and lets you help those affected.
Hello, folks. It's Chuck Holton here. It'd like to never quit raining today. We are in the rainy season here in Panama, and usually what that means is that it rains every day, but it doesn't necessarily rain all day. But then the closer you get to October, the more it rains. And man, today was an especially rainy day in the rainy season. I bet we got more than a foot of rain this morning. It just now quit raining, and here it is about 5 o'clock at night. Today's a special day in Panama because it's the 500th anniversary of what they call Panama la Vieja. That's the old city in Panama City that was eventually sacked in the late mid 16th century, 1561, I think, or something like that, by Henry Morgan himself, the famous pirate captain. And then they moved the city of Panama City from old Panama, Panama la Vieja, to what they call Casco Viejo, which is kind of down on a peninsula that is a little more defensible, and that didn't help them a whole lot. I think that place ended up getting sacked as well. So today's a special day, this being, I'm recording this on the 15th, you're watching it on the 16th, and so people are having celebrations all around Panama. I'm surprised we don't have fireworks going off everywhere. Panamanians love their fireworks, and that's great, as long as you don't have PTSD or something. But so special day here in Panama. The day that you watch this is the 16th, and that's also a special day for me because it's the anniversary of the day my dad went home to heaven, and so I miss him, especially on the 16th of August every year. That was 7 years ago, in 2012. And I was actually here in Panama when he died. I was down in the Darien jungle and filming an NRA Frontlines piece down there when I got the call. So I had to rush home to my mom. And anyway, special day for our family. So thanks for watching the Hot Zone. I've got so much more content from Nigeria that I just have to show you. And before I get to that, though, I wanted to talk a little bit about Venezuela and the migrant crisis there. We haven't touched on that in a while, and there's been some developments there I want to talk about. If you remember, probably the last time we talked about this, there were something like 1.5 million Venezuelans that had fled into Colombia, specifically into Colombia. There were 1.5 million Venezuelan refugees there. Now, who knows what that number is, because there's more coming every day. The sanctions that the United States is putting on Venezuela is making life that much worse inside the country, sort of by necessity. We have to kind of make Maduro face the music and hopefully get the people of Venezuela to the point where they're tired enough of that dictator that they will rise up and kick him out themselves. And so in the meantime, there's a lot of people leaving. One of the offshoots of that, or outgrowths of that exodus, is that there are a lot of babies being born to Venezuelan mothers inside Colombia. Now, you might not think that's such a big deal. If you're an American and you're born in Panama, you're still considered to be an American citizen. Even if you're born outside of the country, as long as you're born to at least one parent who's an American. But not every, and if you're born in the territory of America, of the United States, then you are a U.S. citizen. It doesn't matter whether your parents are American citizens or not. That's where this phenomenon of anchor babies comes from, with women coming from all over the world, really, to have their babies in the United States so that they can have de facto American citizenship, and that will hopefully help them out sometime later down the road when it comes time to get in college and things like that. The only problem with that is that the parents may or may not even know or think about is that if your kid is an American citizen, then he's subject to American income tax no matter where he lives for his entire life, anywhere in the world, no matter where he makes his money. I think if they do know that, they probably just don't care and figure my kid's never going to file taxes in the U.S. anyway. But I can tell you that the IRS is hiring agents all the time and training them to come after people like that, because if your kid makes it good because he got to go to Harvard because he was an American citizen or whatever, and makes a lot of money, the IRS may very well come calling no matter where he lives, in China or Indonesia or Bangladesh or Panama, no matter what. So that's what you call birthright citizenship, or so the bottom line is there are only about 30 countries in the world that grant people automatic citizenship for being born in their country. And Colombia is not one of those countries. So a Venezuelan mother comes across into Colombia, fleeing the poverty and violence and crime and dictatorship in Venezuela, and has her baby in a Colombian hospital. That kid is not ipso facto a Colombian citizen. But because he wasn't born in Venezuela, he's not considered to be a Venezuelan citizen either. And that makes that kid a stateless person. So far, there have been more than 24,000 children born to Venezuelan mothers inside Colombia. Colombia will allow them will actually pay for them to have their babies there, but they don't get Colombian citizenship by default. And that could cause a serious problem. So you imagine you're not actually a citizen of anywhere. You can't get a passport. You can't get a driver's license. You can't get an ID card. You can't attend school, maybe. There's a lot of things you need to be a citizen for, and these kids are just kind of stuck. So Colombia finally did something about that. They made a proclamation last week and announced that these stateless children from Venezuela would be granted Colombian citizenship. And I'm not sure if this is kind of a one-off thing or not, but take a look at what they had to say about that.
They were caught in a limbo. And with this measure, the government of Colombia is saying that children's rights are above other interests, and that children will be afforded citizenship rights, a right to education, to healthcare, and the protection that the state can give them.
So kudos to Colombia for doing something about that. I mean, Venezuela is nothing but a hot mess, and there's more and more people leaving there all the time. A lot of them are fleeing to Ecuador, trying to get into Ecuador. So many Venezuelans have gone to Ecuador, Peru, Brazil, Colombia, Panama, that many of those countries are changing their immigration laws to try to make it harder for these people to come. The United States could probably take a lesson from that, or at least the Democrats in the United States could take a lesson from that. But Ecuador has to date been one of the easiest countries for someone to get into and live there, especially these Venezuelans. So hundreds of thousands of them have literally made the trek on foot. It takes them about 30 days to walk from the Venezuelan border through Colombia down into Ecuador. And that is about to end because Ecuador has said, yeah, enough, basta. And they're changing their laws as of August 25th, here in about 10 days, that will no longer allow Venezuelans to come in and live there and get a work permit legally. That doesn't mean it's going to stop them. They're probably going to just keep coming illegally. They're doing that in Colombia. They're doing that in Peru. They're doing that in even heading up to the United States and Panama here. So the problem is not going away, but the nations that are dealing with this in Latin America are really, they've had it up to here. And so it's time for Maduro to go. It's been time for a long time, but it's really, really getting time for Maduro to go. Let's hope that somebody finally makes that happen one way or the other. Apparently Juan Guaido, the interim president in Colombia, or for Venezuela, it's been recognized by more than 50 countries as the legitimate president of Venezuela, but he hasn't really been able to make good on that and really make a difference, much of a difference there for his people. And so his own people are kind of losing faith in him because of that. So that's an update from Venezuela. Good chance that I'll go back to the border here before too long and make an update for you on that. So be watching for that. All right, let's go back to Nigeria. I just finished a piece today about the Christian persecution issue when it comes to Boko Haram, people fleeing Boko Haram. 2.1 million people inside Nigeria that have fled Boko Haram and are internally displaced in their own country. That makes them one of the largest displacements of people in the world right now, behind Syria and even Venezuela, like we talked about, and a couple other countries like that, Yemen being one. But it's a major problem, and here's a little excerpt of my story for that that'll air on CBN here tomorrow. 29-year-old Aisha grew up in northern Kenya with her family, scratching out a meager living along with the rest of those in her small village. She's a Christian from one of the largest ethnic groups in West Africa. Life was hard for this young mother, and it was about to get a whole lot harder.
In November 2013, Boko Haram invaded our village. They killed my father-in-law and abducted some of the children who lived with us. We were so scared, so we fled to the mountains.
As a movement, Boko Haram has been around for a very long time, starting back in 2002, long before ISIS even became a thing. And as time went on, they got more and more extreme to the point where in 2011, they detonated a car bomb at this building behind me. That's the UN embassy here in Abuja. They've continued to kill people across the country of Nigeria, thousands in fact, to the point where in 2015 they were dubbed the most dangerous terror group on the planet. Much of that terror directed at Christians. Enoch Yohana was one of Aisha's neighbors.
They started with burning of the churches, killing the pastors, and killing the members, closing them down. On 29 September 2014 was the day that they attacked my village. Around 10, I have a call that they have killed my dad.
Now, there's another problem that's contributing to this displacement, and that is the Fulani tribesmen that are not Boko Haram. They're not ISIS or anything like that, but they are Fulani herdsmen. They herd cattle, and they are killing Christians even faster than Boko Haram is. So my next story from Nigeria is going to be about that, but I've got so much content. I did so many interviews, great content about that. I wanted to play for you some of the interview I did with a Fulani or partially Fulani man, where he explains a little bit about the Fulani culture and what this problem is all about. Take a look.
My name is John Sali Kaluma. Fulani tribe is basically they are herdsmen. They take care of their cows. They settle down in one particular place. They don't have a permanent settlement. It is a community that is governed by a very, very close tie together. They believe in themselves. They trust themselves. They usually will not be open to any other persons except themselves. Fulanis are most dominant in the northern part of Nigeria. Boko Haram and Fulani, they are two separate organizations. And as much as they are two separate culture and tribe. But somehow they have come together to unleash mayhem on the generality of the society. The Boko Haram started targeting specifically to annihilate Christians. That was the original intention, to completely eradicate Christians. And they started in the northeastern part of Nigeria called Borno. And they started clearing churches, and of course, Christians were leaving their areas. Even if you are their tribe and you were converted to be a Christian, as long as you are not a Muslim, you have to leave the place. Right now, what is going on is a very serious conflict between Fulani herdsmen and Christians with the support of the educated or elites of Fulanis. And what's going on is simply the Fulani people want to dominate.
So that's all I've got for today, folks. There's so much content coming from this last trip. I just am overwhelmed, really trying to put it all together. But we're getting some really good pieces out of it. So thanks for watching. Thanks for being a part of the Hot Zone. I really appreciate you all. And I'm going to go back down and keep editing, because there's a whole lot more coming. Thanks for watching the Hot Zone.
The Hot Zone is produced by Amy Holton and Livefire Media. Copyright 2019.